Hey, I'm Danny, and I've put together a list of 12 changes I'd like to see to current webtoon platforms. Two quick things before we jump in. First, I'm building a comic app called Inkverse, and it's why I've been thinking a lot about what makes for a great comic platform. And second, this video mainly focuses on improvements for webtoon creators, but I also cover a couple improvements from a fan perspective as well. So let's get started. Number one, you should be able to take your subscribers with you. I'm starting off with the most important point, which is if you spend years building your audience for your comic, you should be able to leave the current platform and not have to start over again somewhere else with 0 subs. So current webtoon platforms don't allow this, but from a creator perspective, it's a good business decision to never be locked into any tech platform. And if a platform knows you can leave with your subs, they will be much more willing to treat you fairly. Number two, monetization should not be tied to the platform. So one thing comic platforms do is force creators to exclusively use their payment system inside their apps. That by itself isn't bad. The problem is they also set the price for the revenue split. So I've seen some comic platforms take a 50% cut, and I've seen some platforms take a 75% cut of all revenue. Those are big numbers, and you may ask yourself, what exactly are you paying for? Well, I don't think the 50% or 75% fee is about the actual cost of hosting images or processing payments. What the fee is actually about is the platform saying, if you want access to our millions of users, this is the price you have to pay to access them. And to be honest, I get that. That is their business model. But what's frustrating is this ties the idea of monetization to access to fans. And unfortunately, this creates an unequal power dynamic where as a creator that maybe doesn't have an audience yet, you kind of have to agree to whatever fee the platform sets. And for an example of how you could do this differently, Patreon and Ko-Fi are examples of payment options where creators already use them and would love to have them as monetization options inside current apps. The problem is integrating these payment systems doesn't align with the current business model of a lot of webtoon platforms. Number three, creators have to give up IP rights to unlock all features. Comic platforms are one of the few tech platforms where creators have to give up IP rights just to access monetization options on the platform. On YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, you don't have to give up IP rights just to access their monetization features. But for almost every comic platform, if you want to access the coin system, you do. And that's brutal. Number four, better ways to discover comics. One of the most common things I hear from creators is, I want more people to read my comic. And while not every comic is going to be a hit, I think platforms can do more to match readers with comics on their app. I also wanted to highlight two systemic reasons why there's a particular problem for indie creators on these apps. So first, since comic platforms own IP rights for some of the comics on their platforms, you can understand why they choose to feature those comics over others, even if there are other comics that better align with what the user wants to read. And number two, the business model for a lot of comic platforms revolve around finding content they believe will have mass market appeal. This focus on mass market appeal is why you see similar comic promoted over and over again on these apps. However, indie comics are totally different in that they have a niche but loyal audience, and that doesn't fit the business model and is one reason why you don't see them promoted on these apps. Number five, the app is open source and uses open standards. It would be great if more comic platforms were open source and use open standards. Why? Because open source and open standards give the creators more leverage over these comic platforms, which is really needed in this industry. Number six, clear content guidelines. It is frustrating when platforms don't have clear content guidelines on what is and what is not allowed on these platforms. But what's even more frustrating is that it sometimes feels like the exclusive comics on these platforms get different rules applied to them than the indie comics on the platforms. The fix is simple. Have clear guidelines that apply to everyone. Number seven, let creators easily set up their own website. One thing I've consistently heard from comic creators is that they really want their own website, but it's really complicated to set up. Comic platforms already have all your art and could make it really easy to set up your own website using your own branding and on your own domain. They just choose not to because it doesn't align with their business model. But we should change that. Number 8, useful analytics for your comics. Platforms have a lot of data, but they don't always share this data with creators. From talking to creators want to see more analytics. First, because it's always encouraging to see people care about the thing you spend hours creating. But secondly, from a business angle, having more data can help creators learn things about their comics that would make their comic even better. Number 9, transparent and fair contracts and no minimum payouts. I've been involved in the webcomic space for a couple of years now, and as someone who wants to learn more about the industry and how much creators are earning on these apps, I would say there's surprisingly little information that is public about the contracts a creator would have to sign to unlock monetization on these comic apps. What I mean is, if you're a creator and want to know what IP rights you have to give up or what percentage revenue you get, there isn't a standard contract or terms of service you can look up. And so after talking to some creators, it became clear why. These are non-standard contracts, meaning you as the creator have to negotiate these terms with the comic platform. So if you're an industry veteran or a webtoon studio, you probably already have a lawyer and know how to negotiate these terms. But if you're a new creator or someone who doesn't already have a webcomic published on these platforms, you're at a serious disadvantage. My takeaway is that comic platforms should strive to have standard contracts that are public, transparent, and fair. And while we're at it, a lot of indie creators have specifically mentioned they dislike the idea of minimum payouts. And so some platforms make you hit a minimum of $20, $50, or $100 before you can take the money you've earned on that platform into your own bank account. So that's frustrating for a lot of creators because it takes a while to hit those amounts on these platforms. So no minimum payouts. Number 10, notification for likes and comments. A weirdly common complaint from creators is they have no idea when a fan likes or comments on an episode without them having to check every episode's comments. This seems like an easy fix. Number 11, save webtoons into lists. This is a simple idea, but it's surprising that more comic platforms don't support custom lists. I personally want to organize my comics into currently reading, my favorites, completed, and you may want to organize your comics into a slightly different way. We should support lists. Number 12, time lock content has got to go. I love discovering a new webtoon and then binging a bunch of it. So features like Daily Pass or Wait Until Free ruin that reading experience for me. So to Webtoon's credit, and I'm talking about the big Webtoon app that used to be part of Naver, they removed Daily Pass, but apps like Tapas still have Wait Until Free, and other platforms have their own time lock content features. I think we should remove them all. They're really bad reading experience. So that's my 12. But before you go, I just wanted to mention one thing. I said earlier in this video, I'm building a comic platform called Inkverse. And going through this exercise made me realize that what I'm trying to build with Inkverse is not a competitor to these comic platforms. The analogy I thought of while coming up with this list is that a lot of these comic platforms are trying to build the Spotify of webcomics. But I want Inkverse to be the Bandcamp of webcomics. What I mean is, Bandcamp doesn't take IP rights. They have standard contracts for all the creators. They only take a 15 to 10% cut for all the revenue they generate for creators. And in general, Bandcamp isn't trying to be a monopoly in the music industry. They just want to be a really useful tool for indie musicians. And to me, that's really inspirational. And that's what I'm trying to build with Inkverse. If you think I missed any big feature in my list, or if you really agree or disagree with anything I said, please leave a comment below. And if you would like to see me rank my own comic app, Inkverse, based on these 12 points I mentioned, click the video here.